Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hosts Melanie Johnson and Jenn Foster are the owners of Elite Online Publishing. They're both Wall Street Journal, USA Today best-selling authors. We're really glad you're here because this podcast was designed for you. Meet industry experts that share their secrets and strategies. Get successful results for your business in money, relationships, health, and your life. Each episode is going to inspire you to take action towards reaching your greatness.
Hey, good morning and welcome, or good afternoon, wherever you are, or even evening where you're listening. Welcome to another great podcast. I've got Jenn Foster here. I'm Melanie Johnson. Hi, Jenn. How are you doing?
It's a great day. I'm super excited about today's guest.
Yeah, she's actually broadcasting from Italy today. So I love that. I wish I was in Italy. You might wish you were in Italy too. Italy keeps coming around my circuit. I've had like 3 people that either just spent 3 months there or they have a house there. And now we have a guest there. So maybe Italy's on everybody's radar these days. But what are you going to learn when you come here today? You know, so many of us are going through transitions in life, whether it's because of COVID, whether it's because of parents, whether it's because of careers or job shifts. And how do you get through that? How do you transition and lead yourself to the next place in life? Because a lot of it comes when something happens to you, lose a job unexpectedly, you have a divorce unexpectedly. How do you not hide under the covers and lead yourself to that next phase in your life? Well, Dr. Barbara Dalle Pezze, got to say it like it's Italian, is here today to share with us some tips and strategies on how to do that. Welcome, Barbara. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Jenn, for having me here. It is an honor to be here with you today. Thank you.
Well, tell us, Barbara, a little bit about how your story started and a little bit into, the memoir that we see behind you on the shelf.
Yes. So my story started in a very old-fashioned way. I fell in love with a man that became then my husband. And with him, we decided to move from Italy to Asia. And actually, we moved to Hong Kong. And the experience abroad was an experience both of encountering diversity, learning more about the world. We were younger at the time. And in that process, after few years in this new life and in this new culture, it also happened that our paths separated. And that decision was taken by my then husband. And that was a famous out of the blue decision for me, because I thought that actually my life was pretty good. And I thought that I was on top of it. But in fact, I was not. And so the implosion of my marriage happened whilst I was abroad and whilst I was building my career and I was encountering the world. And that is a new chapter that opened up and changed completely the course of my life. And that is what is in my memoir, The Unexpected Gift.
Yeah. And it was you were just blindsided, right? Like you had no idea.
I had absolutely no idea. And I am a philosopher. I'm trained as a philosopher. My PhD is in philosophy. So I'm used to investigate reality. I'm very curious about people's dynamics. I'm questioning a lot of things. So I thought that I was on top of my life for sure. And I did not expect this to happen. Our relationship was good, according to me, and apart from the ups and downs that all relationships have. But for sure, it was not a situation where I would thought, okay, here we go, and we are going to break up. And so it was a shock when my then husband, came to me the very same day I was awarded my PhD, and instead of a big party that I was expecting, actually, he delivered the news that he wasn't sure that he wanted to continue with the marriage. And that was a shock, a double shock, because instead of, I was all geared up for a celebration, and instead I had to use all my positive energy to absorb that information. So it was really out of the blue, and it completely shattered my world and turned it upside down in 1 minute. The time needed for him to say, I'm not sure I want to continue with this marriage. That was the time needed for my life to completely change in a moment.
And how do you go from that traumatic thing? It's like someone just took a baseball bat almost to your life, and it crushes down everything, finances, where you're going to live, everything gets changed. How do you get to the survival and thriving mode? Because so many people, men or women, when things like that happen, you really just want to hide under the covers and not come up. So how do you do that?
Well, out of that experience, I did develop what I call the 7 steps to the gift, which are the steps I realized I went through in many years to overcome and transform the situation. I remember clearly that my decision was not to give in to the situation. So I didn't know how I would have moved from that space and from that side of pain. I didn't know what would the future look like. I didn't even know what would have happened and how technically the whole situation would have unfolded. But one thing I was sure about, which is I did not want to give in to that traumatic situation. Having said that, it was very difficult, it was painful, but I never thought of giving in to that and stay in bed and sleep and not wanting to face life again. No matter how painful it was. That was the fundamental decision, I think, that happened, that I took in that situation. And I think that the first step, apart from this, was then, okay, so how do we take action? Because you do need to do something in that situation. Mm-hmm. And it was very difficult at first because, of course, my husband was still there, and I didn't know how to relate to him, because once you deliver this news, then how am I going to be with you? Are you still my husband? How am I going to think about you and our relationship? How am I supposed to feel in that situation? I had absolutely no clue. So I felt really a stranger in my own life, and it was as if I was in a completely new home, new house, and I didn't know where things were, where rooms were. It was really, really difficult. And so I needed courage to face what I didn't know. I needed a lot of patience, because I had to endure pain. There was no other way out. I had to feel it, and I decided to go through it and feel it in order really to free myself from it. But that took years. Mm-hmm. And so the decision of being patient, of having courage, and the decision to trust that no matter what it felt like to be in that situation, and no matter how painful it was, and no matter the fact that I couldn't see a future anymore, that everything I thought my future would be, married with kids, a good career, with the next to the man that I knew for many, many years, everything disappeared. And so I had never, as a woman, never imagined anything different. So what could have been a new way of looking at my life if not repeating the same example, right? Okay, I'll find another man, I'll marry it, etc. No, I didn't know how to think a new life and a different life, so I had to learn that. And in order to do that, I had also to get acquainted with myself. So if I am not that woman that will be married with kids and in that line of narrative, who am I? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who am I going to be as a woman? Also because culturally, coming from Italy, given that we talked about Italy before, I don't want to generalize, but from my environment, that was the role models, right, for women. And I had no idea how to create a new one. So it was a long process of discovering of many things.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting, like you were saying, you've got to have the courage and the trust in yourself, right? And having that positivity to say, okay, this is a blank canvas. I get to start fresh. Like that I think is hard. I know Melanie and I both kind of went through similar things as far as divorce goes. And you are just kind of like, hey, I've never thought of my life without a husband, or I've never thought of my life, what would it be like? Because you always have this picture perfect thought in your head of what your, future is going to be. And then you're like, oh, wait, no, now it's blank, right? Now what?
Yes.
So how did you go from, where did you go from here? Did you leave China, or what happened next?
No, I did not, because that was another element of the experience. I felt already I had lost my future the way I wanted and the way I thought about it for a long time. And leaving China and the idea of, for example, going back home, because it appeared that it might have been easier. Eventually, I decided not to do that at first, because it felt like I would lose also the experience, the amazing experience I'm having and I'm doing of being abroad. And so I made the difficult decision to stay and to restart from there. I was blessed with many people who loved me, both at home and in there where I was. And without their support, I definitely would have not made it. But I decided to stay. I decided to stay and take a chance again alone. It was not what I imagined. I never imagined that I would have to look for an apartment, just simple things, an apartment for myself on the other side of the world. I never pictured that, or having to figure out, okay, how do I move forward in my career, given that I decided to do a PhD later in life, because I had the support of my husband, who agreed with that. And so once that was gone, the question was, okay, so now I am by myself. I have made a decision, and here I am with a new career to build from scratch in a world that I have absolutely no clue how to move into. So that was quite a daring move and a very scary position to be in, I have to admit, at first. Having said that, I found the courage and inner strength to give it a try.
There's that word, courage and inner strength again. And let's talk a little bit about the book, because so many people who've been through things, I imagine the book was very cathartic to write it all down and tell your story. How did that change you by doing that?
What I discovered is, first of all, that when I was going through this, I couldn't find any book that would show me a way of how to move into this experience. And I couldn't find anybody that would tell me, Barbara, don't worry, everything will be all right. So nobody was speaking from the future, so to speak. And so I thought, well, once this story is complete, I want to be that voice from the future, and I will write how the story ends, at least for me. This is one reason that made me write a book. The second reason is I realized that during the experience, the pain was so intense that I had an amazing lucidity in certain moments, and there was such powerful insights on what was going on the nature of pain and how we can overcome it, that I decided, you know what, with the tiny little bit of energy I had it left in those moments, I always had something to write on, because I wanted to capture those insights. And so I did. And then in time, I had many of those insights that when pain is not so intense, it is, you don't see anymore, kind of, right? So pain gave me some x-rays, and I thought that was very, very powerful. And so I captured those insights, and eventually I decided, okay, now it's time to write a story. And I wanted to, and so I did, and I wrote it for people that now I can read at least one experience, and they can see from the future how it is going to, one possibility, right? And for me, it was painful, yes, and at the same time, it is a healing process, and so there are a lot of elements that pertains not only to my personal experience, but actually to many people that go through traumatic events, no matter if it is a divorce or the loss of somebody we love. it wanted to be my contribution to this experience.
Yeah. And I think when we're in it, it is so easy to say, like, we're not going to be okay. Everything's horrible, because you're in it and you're feeling all that pain. So that's great that you had the energy to write some things down and the insights so that people can read your book and learn from that when they're going through these things. Because everyone's going through something, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's wonderful.
And sorry, just wanted to add that what amazes me about this book is that people who read it, they somehow resonate with different bits of it. And it is amazing. It never happened to me before, because it is as if everyone can see parts of their experience in it, because it is so diverse in its components. And it's incredible how they report, they feedback to me how much they could see themselves in that experience and how much they could get out of what it is written there. And that's, to me, is accomplishment. It is an accomplishment of the book, the contribution, I think, that I wanted to make. So that's great for me.
Well, tell us where we can find you and people can reach out to you.
On my website, which is my name, barbaradallepezze.com, and also on LinkedIn. I am active there, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn.
Great. Well, we'll put the link up in the show notes as well as on the YouTube video. And that's Barbara, DallePezze.com.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks for coming, Barbara. I hope you enjoyed this little tidbit that we gave you. And remember to have courage and to get past whatever you're in, because like she said, there is a compelling future for you. Remember to subscribe to our podcast. If you haven't already, we appreciate it if you do, because we always have great shows here. So we'll see you next time. And if you're looking to publish your book and become a #1 best-selling author, remember to reach out to us at eliteonlinepublishing.com. There's a submission form there. Just click that and fill out the information. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.